Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, everyone. Could I have your attention, please? I'd like to welcome you all here today. My name is Azizal Amal Maulana, and I'm the marketing manager. Now, let's get down to business. The aim of this meeting is to talk about the marketing strategies for the next few months. Well, go over our budget, goals, and welcome the new hires.
Anyone know what is Corona or COVID-19? Anyone know about Corona or COVID-19 here? Okay, COVID-19 is a global health problem including Indonesia. This was initiated from the information of the World Health Organization or WHO on 31 December 2019. There was a case of a cluster of pneumonia with a new etiology in Wuhan City, Hubei Province, China, and later expanded beyond China. On 30 January 2020, COVID-19 was set to become the public health emergency of international concern, or PHEIC. On 11 March 2020, COVID-19 was designated as a pandemic. Indonesia first reported 2 positive cases on March 2020, and a positive case continue to increase. Coronavirus are common in different animals. Rarely, an animal coronavirus can infect human. There are many different kinds of coronavirus. Some of them can cause colds or other mild respiratory, nose, throat, lung illness. Other coronavirus can cause more serious disease, including severe acute respiratory syndrome or SARS, and Middle East respiratory syndrome, MERS. Coronavirus are named for their appearance under the microscope. The virus look like they are covered with pointed structures that surround them like a corona or crown. So, if any question, is this coronavirus different from SARS? It's different. So, SARS stands for severe acute respiratory syndrome. In 2003, an outbreak of SARS started in China and spread to other countries before ending in 2004. The virus that causes COVID-19 is similar to the one that caused the 2003 SARS outbreak. Both are types of coronavirus. Much is still unknown. So we don't know. But COVID-19 seems to spread faster than the 2003 SARS and also may cause less severe illness. So if we talk about is different coronavirus with SARS, different. How do you protect yourself from this coronavirus? So how? It's crucial to practice good hygiene. respiratory etiquette, and bicycle distancing, we can do this. Wash your hand, stay at home. We can do this. Okay? Now we know what Corona is and how its history is. So how about Corona impact to economy sector in Indonesia? How? The increased case of COVID-19 has affected the world economy including Indonesia. The COVID-19 pandemic that has been established by the UN affect the transportation, tourism, trade, health, and other sectors. The lockdown policy is taken by various countries to prevent further spread of COVID-19, so that economic activities are hindered and put pressure on the world economic growth in the future, including in Indonesia economic growth. The government encourages the ministry and institution as well as the local government, Pemda, to accelerate spending primarily on the first quarter 2020 schedule. This was done to reduce the pressure on Indonesia economic growth due to the pandemic COVID-19, as well as a decline in commodity price. Pandemic COVID-19 will have a bad implication for the world's economy and Indonesia this year, as it occurs along with declining commodity prices and financial market volatility. The relationship between inflation and economic growth is one of the debatable issues and the most important macroeconomic discussion among macroeconomists. So there are discussions policymakers and monetary authorities in all countries. Inflation that occur in this year in the projection will be increased to 3% because of the tight supply of food and depreciation of currencies that are expected to be offset partly by the decline in the price of non-subsidized fuels, as well as additional subsidies for electricity and food. However, in the year 2021, inflation is believed to return to normal level, which is 2.8%, which is usually able to grow to 5.2%. Meanwhile, in terms of inflation, tourism, and commodity export revenues, there is an estimated decline that resulted in the current transaction deficit reaching 2.9% of the gross domestic product, or GDP, in 2020. When an economy is going through a persistent inflation, gross domestic product increases. This does not actually reflect the true growth in an economy. Hence, Hence, the rate of inflation must be subtracted from the GDP to get the real growth percentage, called the real GDP. However, for Indonesia, COVID-19 already has significant implication for the tourism sector, lowering export performance and economic growth performance in Indonesia. So it's very implication. The most impactful main sector are the accommodation sector, transportation, retail, and manufacturing of the current transaction balance deficit. If it is reviewed from the workers' economy, it is based on the UN's Departments of Economic and Social Affairs that millions of workers are at risk of losing jobs when nearly 100 countries close the national frontier in terms of a global economy. Of a global economic contraction of 0.9% or higher at the end of 2020. Therefore, the research aims to see the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic to the economy in Indonesia. So that's it. Okay, let's now see this diagram. Okay, we have a comparison of the average case growth rate for each province before and after the Jakarta PSBB in person. Okay, let's see. In the diagram, we can see the average economic growth before and after the PSBB in Indonesia. Before the PSBB, North Sumatra was the region with the highest economic growth, while West Papua and Gorontalo were the regions with the lowest economic growth. And however, after the existence of PSBB in Indonesia, Banten was the region with the lowest economic growth, while West Sulawesi was the region with the highest economic growth. So this is. The government has also tried to stop the spread of the outbreak in the country. One of them is by implementing large-scale social restriction or PSBB. The first area to implement the PSBB is DKI Jakarta, which started on Friday, April 10, 2020 until mid-May 2020. There are 4 provinces and 12 districts or cities that have implemented the PSBB. So, the first area to implement the PSBB is DKI Jakarta, which started in Friday, April 2020. Yeah. Based on the graph above, the comparison of the average growth in the number of cases before and after the implementation of the PSPP saw a decline of about 3.18% nationally. The epicenter area also saw lower case growth. Even so, these facts are not sufficient to justify that PSPP has succeeded in reducing the spread of COVID-19. If community mobilization hasn't been optimally suppressed and the capacity for testing in the region is still minimal. On the other hand, there are still several provinces that are experiencing weekly growth in cases. Yeah, that's it. If you any question about what are the government rules, yeah, I will try to answer it. The Indonesia government has taken various measures through the social safety nets to help the people's economy affected by the COVID-19, either directly or indirectly. So the step to break the COVID-19 deployment chain was just to have an economic impact on the ground. This means that the government is seriously providing an economic stimulus package. The government realized the true non-medical impact of the plague cases by the SARS-CoV volume 2 virus and can be seen from the many people who lose their job and livelihood because they had to be home. So many people lost their job. Saying in the condition, the government has made various efforts to help the community economy through various policies. Policies that only rely on economic growth are policies and limit the circulating of asset among the rich people. Some of these policies, including direct cash assistance, or we can talk about BLT, which use the Felix Fund. The BLT is budgeted to use 22.47 trillion that is appropriated from the 72 trillion estimated for the Felix Fund. In addition, there is a Prakerja card with a monthly incentive that reaches 3.5 million per person. Yeah, 3.5 million per person. Not only that, the government has also launched an electricity tariff reduction of 50% for customers' capacity of 460 watts over their months. Some of the steps to be taken are as follow: accelerating realization of shopping, especially social assistance spending such as PKH and health as 1,155, well as non-operational shopping. So the tourist center through various support programs such as the acceleration of development of 5 super priority tourist destinations like Toba, Borobudur, Likupang, and then Labuan. The government will also set up fiscal and non-fiscal policies to stimulate the tourism sector, encourage and accelerating the labor-intensive spending on productive activities that absorb a lot of manpower, such as infrastructure shopping in the center and the region, are optimizing the role of the APBN as a flexible instrument in response to the economic situation. By staying within the limits of safe and restrained, accelerating development of the people business, credit, or this is government rules to COVID-19 in Indonesia, especially in economy sector in Indonesia. From our discussion today, I am Azizal Amal Maulana can conclude that COVID-19 pandemic, in addition to being a global health problem, also has implication on the economy in Indonesia. Indonesia potentially grows negative 0.4%, which is the worst case scenario. The economic sector most affected by COVID-19 is the household sector.
We can discuss that at the end if you feel it's important. I think we should save that until next time. Before we close, let me just summarize the main point. We also talk about our new sales goals and increasing our traffic. Finally, we welcome our cooperation to the company. Okay, it looks like we've covered the main item for the meeting today. Are there any questions before we finish? No? Great, thank you all for attending. That's all for today. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We can discuss that at the end if you feel it's important. I think we should save that until next time. Before we close, let me just summarize the main point. We also talk about our new sales goals and increasing our traffic. Finally, we welcome our cooperation to the company. Okay, it looks like we've covered the main item for the meeting today. Are there any questions before we finish? No? Great, thank you all for attending. That's all for today. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We can discuss that at the end if you feel it's important. I think we should save that until next time. Before we close, let me just summarize the main point. We also talk about our new sales goals and increasing our traffic. Finally, we welcome our cooperation to the company. Okay, it looks like we've covered the main item for the meeting today. Are there any questions before we finish? No? Great, thank you all for attending. That's all for today. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We can discuss that at the end if you feel it's important. I think we should save that until next time. Before we close, let me just summarize the main point. We also talk about our new sales goals and increasing our traffic. Finally, we welcome our cooperation to the company. Okay, it looks like we've covered the main item for the meeting today. Are there any questions before we finish? No? Great, thank you all for attending. That's all for today. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We can discuss that at the end if you feel it's important. I think we should save that until next time. Before we close, let me just summarize the main point. We also talk about our new sales goals and increasing our traffic. Finally, we welcome our cooperation to the company. Okay, it looks like we've covered the main item for the meeting today. Are there any questions before we finish? No? Great, thank you all for attending. That's all for today. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We can discuss that at the end if you feel it's important. I think we should save that until next time. Before we close, let me just summarize the main point. We also talk about our new sales goals and increasing our traffic. Finally, we welcome our cooperation to the company. Okay, it looks like we've covered the main item for the meeting today. Are there any questions before we finish? No? Great, thank you all for attending. That's all for today. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.